Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this wet Thursday, the Board of County Commissioners zoning hearing on Thursday, September 26, 2024. Commissioner Barnett, I'm going to have you do the prayer. Thank you.
Is there one in here for hurricanes?
It's under St. Helena.
All right. Father, help us to be sensitive to what is happening to those around us. Make us aware of the concerns of others and guide us through the decision process that is before us today. Give us the strength and courage to do what is best for all those who come before us. And let's take a moment to say a prayer for those in the path of the hurricane. It is a dangerous hurricane. It could be a lot of damage and possibly lives lost. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Baxter's coming in a little late. Let's go ahead. I was trying to delay a bit, but we'll go ahead now with the roll call. Thank you.
Commissioner Barnett,
Here.
Commissioner Baxter, Commissioner Bernard,
Here.
Vice Mayor Marino,
Here.
Mayor Sachs,
Here.
Commissioner Weiss, Commissioner Woodward. Here. Thank you.
I see that we have a quorum. Commissioner Weiss is excused. He's at a conference, and Commissioner Baxter is on her way here. So let's move right ahead with notice. We have notice?
Yes, we do.
Very good. And we have proof of publication.
We also have that as well.
Very good. And if I could have our very fine lawyer swear everybody in, that'd be wonderful.
Before we do that, can we do a motion to receive and file proof of
That
publication?
might be a very good idea to do that right now.
So move.
Second, we have the first from Commissioner Bernard, second from Commissioner Woodward. All those for, anybody against? See that it passes unanimously. Now, if there's no other business, we can go ahead with the swearing in.
All those wishing to testify or speak on today's items, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Very good. All right. Do we have agenda approval now? Let's move. Go right ahead, Wendy.
We have a few amendments to our agenda, specifically on the consent agenda. C3, we have a modified motion. It's just to approve item 3B rather than adopting a resolution. So that's on the add delete. And then we have a new item added to the consent agenda related to CAMD Miliana Park Project Facilities Development and Operations. The motion and summary are on the add delete, and this is also on the consent agenda.
Very good. I think that's been added to our agenda as we have it today. And is there,
Can I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended?
we're going to, we have a motion from Vice Mayor to accept the consent agenda as amended, and a second from Commissioner Woodward. All those for?
Actually, I believe you said consent. It's just accepting the agenda or approving the agenda as amended. We'll get to consent in a moment.
Okay. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously. We have 5-0. Thank you. Okay, moving right along. Now we're looking at the consent agenda. Is there any request to pull anything from the consent agenda at this time? Seeing no one. Very good. Are there disclosures for the consent agenda? And we're going to start with Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. For item number 1, I have correspondence to be received and filed for the clerk. For item number 2, correspondence. Are there any other items on consent? Is 3 on consent?
There's 6 items on consent.
Okay. Item 3, I've had verbal communications with Tyler Woolsey and correspondence received. Item 4, I have no disclosures. Item 5, I've had correspondence, email to be filed with the clerk, and verbal communications with Ken Tuma.
Is that it, Commissioner?
And those are all my disclosures.
Okay, very
Thank you.
good. Commissioner Woodward.
I have disclosures on item number 3, South Florida Fair North Lots, email correspondence, and that is all.
Very good. Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On item 3, South Florida Fair North Lots, I have no verbal communication and received correspondence. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Baxter, do you need a few minutes?
I think I'm good. We're on item 3.
Okay.
Emails should be received and filed with the clerk, no verbal and no site visit.
Okay, very good. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. The only item I have disclosures on would be item number 3, where I received an email from Tyler Woolsey, and it has been filed. Thank you.
Very good. And from the mayor's office on item number 3, South Florida Fair, email communications, Tyler Woolsey, Urban Design Studio, receive and file emails. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Baxter is with us. She has her assistant who will be helping us out during the deliberations today. Yes. And what's his name? Liam. Very good. Not easy to be a mom and a commissioner at the same time. That's right. Well, you take care of business. I appreciate it. Appreciate it. Okay, moving right along. Now that we have the disclosures, we're going to be looking at any zoning applications now at this time?
No modifications other than what I had previously read for the consent agenda.
Okay, very good. So why don't we start with
Have motion to approve consent agenda?
Second.
all those for? Anybody opposed? Did you get the first and the second, Madam Clerk? See that it passes unanimously, 6-0. Now, we're going, well, we have, should we take each one as they come along here? Or what do you suggest?
We have one item on the regular agenda.
Right.
And that is our modification to the ULDC for parking and permanent generators. We presented this last month for permission to advertise. This is for first reading and final adoption. So I can summarize it if you would like, or.
Does anybody need a summary
Okay.
after we had our information given to us last week? Are there any questions or comments to the staff on this one item on the regular agenda? I think we're ready to take a vote. Do I see a first? A first from Commissioner Woodward, a second from Commissioner Barnett. All those for, anybody opposed, see that it passes unanimously, 6-0. If they should all be this easy. Very nice. Now we're ready at the end of our regular agenda to go over the comments from our county attorney.
No comments, just hope everybody stays safe.
Hold on, Madam Mayor, we still have to do the add-on item 6.
I sort of included that in the consent agenda,
Yes, it was on the consent agenda.
unless you wanted to do something extraordinary with that issue. Commissioner Bernard, I don't think so. Okay, good. That's all included in the consent agenda. Okay, our planning director, you said you didn't have any comments, Mr. Stone. Okay, very good. Our planning director,
We have no comments.
very good. Our zoning director,
No comments.
and our executive director.
I'd actually like to just reiterate that the FEMA meeting tonight, that the Jupiter Community Center has been canceled. So for anyone that's watching that hasn't gotten the press releases, that meeting is canceled. And
Very good.
Safety
Anything
for all
else?
those in the hurricane path.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, very good. And now from our deputy county administrator.
No comment.
Very good. Let's go with our commissioners. And we're going to start again with you, Commissioner Barnett. You're on the spot.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing except to say again, I hope everybody in District 3 and all around Palm Beach County remains safe. The storm is far away. It's out in the Gulf, but we will be affected. You probably have seen the wind pick up already. I want to thank and commend our Palm Beach County Fire Rescue personnel who I've been told are already making their way towards the expected impact zone in the Panhandle to help our fellow Floridians who are going to need a lot of help. Thank you very much, Chief Kennedy, and all of our firefighters. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. I echo Commissioner Barnett and that everyone just please stay safe. Outer bands can actually drum up tornadoes too, so everyone just pay attention. And I do have a board appointment that I need to make for the Housing Finance Authority Board, appointing Clark Bennett. That's all.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Bernard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As echoed by the other commissioners, we just want our residents to remain safe because you never know what the hurricane may do. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And Commissioner Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to also echo my fellow commissioners and just hope that our residents stay safe. I would also like to try this again and reappoint Keith Wedgeworth to the Business Development Board. I also have a resolution that everyone should have received a copy of that I would like staff to bring back to us, making sure that wording and everything is good, please. Yes, thank you.
Very good, very good. Vice Mayor?
Well, I would like to give some support to Commissioner Baxter's resolution because last September 6th at the Lake O 16 County Coalition Board meeting, our priorities included Lonesome and Lake Worth Lagoon. So thank you for bringing this up. And that's what I have to say on that.
Good. Do you have any other comments?
And then I see that Isami is in the room. Isami, can you give us a hotel update since I wasn't here the other day? I did listen to the meeting when I got home Tuesday night after the transportation conference over at the convention center. If you want to watch paint dry, go to a transportation conference for professionals.
Certainly. Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. It's Isami Ayala, Director of Facilities Development and Operations and Assistant County Administrator. Quick recap as to where we stand and then an update as to the most recent developments. On September 17, we requested authorization from the board to pursue negotiations with the owner of the property. Last Tuesday, we provided an update saying that we had reached a conceptual agreement as to the price of the land and improvements. Property is appraised at $14 million. Seller was looking for to obtain 16. We agreed on 15 million. However, an issue had surfaced related with the franchise release fees. On Tuesday, this board directed us to go back to the owner, go back to corporate with La Quinta, and explore how we could find a way out of those fees that will need to be paid, and that amount close to $2 million. The seller has offered to give us a credit for $250,000, so net being about $1.7 million. We did two things. Same day we received direction from the board, we scheduled a call with the seller. The seller certainly listened to us, but he was firm in his position that if the county wants to acquire the property, it will need to pay for the franchise release fees. We asked the seller for authorization to speak directly with corporate, and he granted that authorization. We actually met independently with corporate under the umbrella of his authorization. And corporate reaffirmed that for this brand, being La Quinta, they do not negotiate the fees. So they were very clear in stating that if the county were to reach an agreement with the seller, someone needs to pay. And the seller has told us that he's not willing to absorb that cost, so that will fall back on the county. We also took the opportunity to ask corporate if the county were to reach an agreement with the seller and keep the brand, what flexibility do we have to operate that property outside from the scope of what the brand of the hotel is? And although we have not seen the contract, what is the typical contract for the franchise, we were informed that there is no flexibility, that if the county were to acquire the property and decide to step into the franchise agreement without paying the cancellation fee to be released, we will need to operate the property as a hotel. And we will need to continue to pay the monthly royalties that come with the operation of the fee of the hotel. They also made it very clear that the contract for the franchise will have very strict conditions as to what it means to operate under the brand. So it will leave the county with no flexibility to do anything else but to operate a hotel. As you know, where we stand in regards to a seller, we have not followed up because we do need direction from the board as to which way you would like us to proceed. The seller has continued his effort to sell the property, so there was an auction going on from Monday to Wednesday. We believe that auction proceeded. We don't know the results. So depending on the direction we receive today, we will go back to the seller and try to re-engage in those conversations. I will state the seller has been very open to engage with us. As soon as we received direction from this board on Tuesday, he immediately jumped on a conference call with us an hour later. So I think it speaks as to the communication level, but at the same time, we believe the window of opportunity is closing, so we do require direction. Just to recap where we are, it will entail payment for the property at $15 million, basically 7% over appraised value, which is squarely within the scope of the county's prime ordinance, and then an additional fee of approximately $1.7 million for the franchise release. And then, as you know, typically we have the closing costs that are normal in every real estate transaction. That will be a high level of overview, Vice Mayor and Commissioner staff, where we are.
Ironically, when we had started this discussion last week, Miami-Dade also had a La Quinta hotel that came up, and they bought it, and they paid over the asking price. Can you tell us, they had to pay the fee also?
We did ask corporate about that, and they gave us an across-the-board representation that every La Quinta, they don't negotiate for that brand, that every La Quinta comes with liquidated fees as a standard, and they do not negotiate. And just to make it clear, we communicated personally with the Vice President of Franchise Services, so we were high up in the chain of command. We did some additional outreach to Miami-Dade. At the corporate level, La Quinta will not go into specifics unless we had authorization to have that conversation. So we received that general statement of, we don't negotiate across the board. So I'm gonna tell you anything La Quinta related, if there was a fee, it was covered. But we did some additional outreach with Miami, and it's my understanding that they face exactly the same type of conditions we're facing.
Okay. Just to continue the discussion, I listened to the discussion on Tuesday, and there isn't anywhere in the county that we can acquire something that's ready to go at this price. And we're talking about, really, if you take $16.7 million and you divide it by 114, you're looking at a unit price of $140,000. That can't be done today. We have a $2 million housing bond that has not brought a single unit into fruition at this point in time. Everyone will remember I was against the bond because I said we need units now, not in 4 years. And we're 2 years later from the bond, and we still don't have a unit from that $200 million. The benefit of a facility like this is that wraparound services, which the only way this can be done is if there's wraparound services on site. This is a facility that has the ability to have wraparound services in there. I don't see this running any much different than the Housing Resource Center that we have down south. And I would be in favor of us purchasing this. Remember also, I am now a retired real estate broker, but I was a real estate broker for 20 years. And I mean, you can pull up 1-bedroom units right now for sale, and you're not going to find anything for $140,000. So I think this would be a good use of our time and money, because I don't think we can actually get 114 units immediately anywhere. So I don't know what you need from us, but I'm happy to make a motion that we negotiate with the seller and purchase the property.
Vice Mayor Marino, we discussed this at some length yesterday. I'm sorry you were not here. If ever there is a time when a commissioner cannot be here, then we can always find extraordinary issues for the absence and bring you into the discussion and the vote. I'm going to call on Commissioner Bernard and Commissioner Woodward. I just hesitate to go over something that we had a thorough discussion yesterday and a vote to bring it up again today. It is not agended. It is under your comments, and if you wish to at some point bring that up in on an agenda item to rehash an issue on any purchase, you're more than free to do so. But I hesitate to go over it again today after everybody who was here had an opportunity to opine on it. Commissioner Bernard, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I will second Commissioner Marino's motion. If the purchase price is $15 million, I figured that the additional $1.7 million would be as part of that purchase price, which would be about $16.7 million. And as Commissioner Vice Mayor mentioned, the price per unit, if you're trying, I've seen building affordable housing, you're spending close to $300,000 to $400,000 per unit. And so I believe that this is an opportunity for us to create another form of housing. As you know, I think I've spoken to the county staff. As long as the county is not going to be in the business of operating these type of developments, I support us moving forward. And I know we gave staff the direction to try to negotiate with the franchisor, and they're not able to negotiate, but this is a great deal that I think that will help us to address this need in the county. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So
Thank you, Commissioner Bernard. Commissioner Woodward, and then Commissioner Baxter and Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Since we discussed this, I was against paying the franchise fee. I'm still against paying that. And also, having further conversation, we were talking about per unit price. We're talking about per room price. This is a room, this is a hotel room. That's not a kitchen. It has a bathroom. It doesn't have laundry. There's no additional, this is a bed and a bathroom. Is that right?
At the unit level, yes, the hotel has a central kitchen and central laundry facilities.
Okay, so again, I think that that's an important distinguishing, this is per room, these aren't units. And also, what exactly is it going to be used for? Because there's been a lot of outreach that's come to my office about this. Is this a homeless shelter? Is this a homeless resource center? Is this a place where people are going to live permanently? Do they move in here? I mean, what is this?
With the benefit of the information that my colleague, Assistant County Administrator Tammy Field has provided me, the operation framework has not fully been developed. However, there are some points that are key considerations. Number one, the units are being considered to be used as what is called a single room occupancy, meaning to say it's slated for dedicated live-in facilities, not as a homeless shelter, but with center operations on seniors and families. Okay, so it's basically to use them as SROs, single room occupancy for seniors and families. That will be the goal. They, on the community services side, they have also made a commitment, if the board decides to move forward, that they will be holding town halls with the surrounding community to address any additional concerns that may have resulted from the concept of possibly using this for homeless shelter operations. So framework to be developed in a nutshell, targeting SROs with a center on seniors and family households, communities.
So I know it's not completely ironed out yet, but is this for people to move into temporarily until they find future housing, or is this where they move into and stay?
I believe the idea is to provide those supporting services with wraparound services so that it serves as a transition point eventually, right? Because it's the county providing support to families in needs, but I will argue that the eventual goal is to allow them to stand on their own, all right?
And so then there would not be rent charged. So this wouldn't be like low-income or affordable housing that the bond was meant to build homes that people would move into and pay rent according to their income. We wouldn't be charging anything for these?
I don't have those details at this point, Commissioner, and now I'm stepping outside my area of expertise, so I can offer, depending on the direction this board provides, to reconnect with Tammy and make sure if we are to come back to the board, that she has an overview of the operational framework.
Okay. And I do realize that this was somewhat rushed just because it was going to auction and
An
it presented
opportunity.
itself, but the more I learn about it, the less I like it. So I would not be for moving forward on this.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxter, and then Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually agree with Commissioner Woodward. I didn't like the idea of paying the franchise fee. I still don't like the idea. But again, the more I hear about it, the less I like it. I do have some questions. If we did proceed with purchasing this, how long would it take for these rooms to become available for use? Are there renovations required? Are there going to be more costs added?
Our typical contract provides a 45-day due diligence process. As of this time, we have the appraisal. Based on the opinion of the appraiser and the photos and everything else that is included, the property appears to be in good shape, and that's the professional position they have shared with us. Through the appraisal, we have not conducted the due diligence, which means that if this board were to approve a purchase and sale agreement, at that point we go into due diligence. We will deploy our engineers, typical process of due diligence to reconfirm that the conditions are what we expect. As of today, based on the information we have available and the fact that the hotel is in operations and they spent about $1 million in recent renovations, we believe once they close, if we get to that point, it should be easy to just put it into service.
So are we saying another year, 2,
No.
or right away?
My expectation, if it is based on the information we have in good condition, which so far we believe it is, it should be as soon as closing happens and community services is ready to support the operations, we should be able just to turn it around, short order. So 45 days for due diligence, assume we can come back with a contract in the next board meeting or 2. We're talking about 2-3 months best case scenario, subject to the findings of the due diligence.
And you are not expecting to have to come back to us to approve more money for any future renovations? And what does the maintenance look like if there's a potential for no one being charged any to stay there? How much are we going to spend as a county on maintenance for this building?
We can certainly provide that information. It will be based on what we find on the due diligence, right? I'm going to give you an example that maybe will put all this into context. When this board, if I may, obviously, when this board authorizes a purchase and sale agreement, we go through the due diligence process. And we sometimes find conditions that as staff we cannot recommend a closing. That just happened with the animal care and control property, the next abutting the county's facility. If you remember, we found contamination. So we came back to the board and said, we're not recommending closing. We have negotiated an extension. We have negotiated for the owner to clean the property. And once that's done, then we recommend closing. So subject to the findings of the closing, there is a possibility that we will do something similar if we find that what has been represented is not accurate. But at this point, we believe it's in good shape.
And are we planning on selling these, keeping them? What is the plan going forward?
I believe the intent is to keep it as county-owned, providing for transitional housing the same way we have other projects. If you look at our portfolio, we have shelters, soon we'll have transitional units in the cottage homes, and this is just another tool in that universe of options we can use. So I believe it's to be held by the county, but it's this board that makes that decision.
I mean, adding so many unknowns to the fact that the surrounding residents really seem to dislike this entire project. I can't support it, but thank you.
Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you refresh me? Where is this project located, this hotel?
Is on Okeechobee Boulevard, very close to the turnpike. So the address is 5981 Okeechobee Boulevard. It will be to the west, if you use our Okeechobee Library as a point of reference, to the west of the library, close to the turnpike.
Okay, and the mayor mentioned that, if I'm not mistaken, you're not comfortable having a vote right now. This wasn't noticed, but we are under a deadline. Can you walk us through the deadline, considering that we have to make a decision quickly?
So we have been working, this was an opportunity. I can only repeat that so much, and my apologies for being redundant, but it was an opportunity. It's something we saw in the market, and given prior direction from this board, we brought it to the board. The owner is certainly looking to sell, meaning to say we're competing with the private sector. It's as simple as that, right? So he has told us he has other offers on the table. I think he has an interest in dealing with the county to the extent of what the county represents, right? We're government. There is some level of certainty that comes with government, but he has made it clear that he has other options, and he was also pursuing an auction process that took place from Monday to Wednesday. I don't know the results of that process. It might very well be that if this board authorizes, I go back and our team staff goes back, and we're told, as an owner, I have made another decision, I'm following another path, but we cannot continue to engage unless we receive direction from the board. So that's the deadline and the window of opportunity that is closed.
And you need that direction today?
It will be preferable if we're going to pursue, but if not, we will obviously defer to the board. We are just bringing an opportunity and giving you the facts that we have as of today. If you want us to continue in the conversation, then yes, I need authorization to go back, because we know for certain the franchise fee are not negotiable.
And it is one of our county's strategic priorities, homelessness and housing, getting people into housing.
Yes, sir.
And as the vice mayor stated, taking into account the purchase price divided by the number of units, which could potentially get many of our seniors and families. I think seniors were given first priority, if I'm not mistaken, and families.
That is the intent.
We can keep 114 families potentially off the streets with this deal.
So, yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'm
I'm
not
sorry.
done.
Go ahead.
I don't think we have the votes, but I'm in favor of it. I would most definitely favor pursuing this. I wish Greg Weiss were here.
I would like to put this on the agenda so that especially the commissioner whose district this in will be notified and will give notice to the public.
But will it be too late by then?
Pardon me?
Won't it be too late by then?
I have no clue, Commissioner Barnett. I know one thing is that we do things in a public and transparent way. And I want to thank Isami for being here. I apologize, Isami, that we pulled you up and asked you all these questions. And I think that what we need to do, if we can, agenda this. There are many hotels out there. I still have a lot of outstanding questions, I think, but the most important thing is that this is public on the agenda. We have all received numerous emails on it. We need to have this transparent, not pull it up at the last minute without public notice. So can we agenda this, Mr. Attorney, or
Mayor,
our staff? Yes,
To
Mr.
that
Redder.
point, so your next available meeting is October 8th, and, you know, this to me shared, and I'll share from another perspective. Apologize for the brevity and having to
apologize,
hit it so
too.
quickly.
Right.
But it is an exigent situation, and it is a very unique opportunity and circumstance, and it does further a number of objectives and goals. Tammy's here as well in case you had any other pieces on
No,
operational.
no, it's okay. It's just that I will not have a vote on an issue that we have not agended properly so that the public is aware of it, as well as the commissioner whose district it is. Unless you want to have a full-out vote on this and discussion, I have too many questions. But the most important thing, I'm not even going to go into my questions, is that we need to do this properly with notice to the public that we have an agenda item that's coming up rather than to bring it up under comments. I mean, I have a lot of issues I'd like to bring back up under comments, but we follow a process. And who can answer that issue for me? Is that you, Mr. Attorney? Sure. Sure.
So there, you know, there's a legal side of it and there's a policy side of it. Because this is seeking direction of something that will ultimately culminate in a agenda item that will come to the board for final action, I think legally you would be safe to provide direction for staff to continue negotiating because it is not a final action. However, you know, there are policy considerations about, you know, whether you think that's appropriate.
I think that's what we did. Somebody helped me out here who was here last time we brought this up. I think the idea was that you can continue negotiations, certainly, because we didn't have enough information. And we had a lot of issues with whether it was a homeless shelter, whether it was for affordable housing, whether it was workforce housing. So we gave direction to staff to continue negotiations. If we want to do another policy decision by the Board of County Commissioners, it needs to be agended so that the public knows about it and can be here present. This affects a lot of people. So before we take a vote on whether or not we should spend 115 million plus one, how much is it, it's to me?
15
million plus
no, 15 million plus 1.7, so
7 million,
16.7.
Right. On the purchase of a property that then belongs to the county, no, we need to have this properly agended. You have authority to continue negotiations, I know you are, and when she's ready to return it to us with the full negotiations, it should be agended, and then we can go ahead and open it up for discussion.
Mayor?
Hold on just one second, sir. I'm listening to the attorney and our county assistant administrator.
Sure, of course, if there's an actual contract to vote on, that would need to be brought back separately. And I guess the question is, what was the direction given? And I'll go ahead.
And the direction was to continue negotiations. Even Ms. Baker didn't have enough information. We didn't know if it was, and the issue, really, one of the issues that we didn't know was whether it was going to be a homeless shelter, because that's what was publicized, whether it was going to be transitional, whether it was going to be workforce, whether it was going to be affordable. So these are the issues that and I know that staff will give that to us. So I know the direction that we voted on last time was continue negotiations, bring it back when we have specifics, and then we can have an open discussion. Mr. Rutter?
Mayor, may I?
Oh, absolutely. Esme, go right ahead. And again, I apologize. This was not something that you knew about beforehand.
Never an issue. We're here certainly to do our job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Just to make sure we have the big picture, I think this transaction, this concept, involves two sections. One is operational, which my colleague covers. My side is purely technical. It's the real estate component. I was given direction, staff was given direction last Tuesday to go back and negotiate, center on the franchise fee. We know that we have a conceptual agreement on the land. We have a disconnect on the franchise fee. And then we were directed, go back to the owner, see if he's willing to acquiesce. If not, talk to corporate. We did all that. There's not much more to negotiate on the technical side because the owner has told us, I am not willing to continue to have a conversation with you unless you are willing to pay the value and the fee. So can we come back to this board? Without doubts, but at that point, given that we already know where the seller stands, my guess will be that it will be the end of the negotiations after today, because we're going to go back to the seller today and say, our board is still considering this, and he is going to reiterate, I am not willing to engage with you in a contract negotiation, talking about the terms, if the county is not willing to pay land and improvements and fee. So that's where we are. And I'm highlighting that to say, at this point, lacking direction, we truly don't have much more to negotiate because the seller has stated the fees are non-negotiable.
Okay.
So it's a breaking point, basically.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Isabel. Okay, any other, well, we have some lights on. Commissioner, Vice Mayor Marino, and then Commissioner Barnett and Commissioner Bernard.
Isami, can you tell me what the cost of the resource center was that we built down south that we just did the ribbon cutting on?
I'm going on my memory here.
fine.
I'm going to say it was close to 24 million, 25.
24 million?
24. I'm going on my memory, please. Not on
And
the
how many beds are in there?
74.
And who runs the facility?
We do. Through community services, obviously.
And we do wraparound services there.
We do.
And those rooms, they're not even single rooms, they're beds in
That is correct. We have basically.
almost dormitory style.
We have dormitory, the female, male, and then there are some areas reserved for couple occupancy.
Okay, and in reference to the housing bond, correct, it's 4 units. But in this instance, and I probably shouldn't have brought the bond up as a comparison, but we are faced with a crisis right now. And this gives us an opportunity to house 30% more than in the resource center at a cost of 60% less. So again, we have also due diligence, which is something that we're not going to buy any property without due diligence. And I think all of those questions can be answered during that. I do see this as a resource center. These are not for sale units. These are not permanent housing units. These are helping folks who are homeless get off the ground. It's similar to what the Lord's Place does. We're trying to supply, give them some dignity, give them a place to live while we can help them figure out where they can go after this. And again, we have 45 days to figure this out. That's what we have in our contracts. That's standard procedure. And I would think, I see us losing an opportunity here, especially given the time frame that we've been given by the state. Thank you.
Commissioner Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to wholeheartedly echo what Vice Mayor Moreno just said. And I know you've issued directions to staff. However, we have a motion and a second on this. What happens to that?
Well, I think that we can have a legal discussion on this because I don't think that we can really, this is a homeless issue, a housing issue. Hi, Ms. Fields. A housing issue that we discussed at some length for hours. And it is important that when we discuss an issue, Commissioner Barnett, that it is agended, that people are here from staff to discuss it, as they always are. And the public knows, and they have been heard. The public has been heard on this issue. They cannot be heard today because it has not been properly agended. So I think at that point, we can continue to discuss this under comments and be more than happy. It's your prerogative. But without an agended item, we will not proceed to a vote. But if you would like to bring this back, Commissioner Barnett, on housing, you're more than welcome. We'll agenda it and have the full staff here and let the public know. That's up to you, sir. It's never too late to agenda an item and bring it up before the public. Go right ahead, Commissioner, you have the floor.
So does the Vice Mayor have to withdraw her motion, or what happens?
No, we're not going to. We're going to proceed with discussion, and I appreciate your opinion. But when something is agended, and it can be agended, then we can bring it back with proper notice. Okay? Thank you. Commissioner, we've got the attorney's light on. Sir, go right ahead.
Sure. So it was mentioned there is a motion on the floor at the moment. Can the motion maker just repeat what that motion was?
My motion was that we allow ISME to put the contract in place.
And so under this motion, and I'll look to ISME, if you were given this direction, you would come back with an agenda item for the actual contract. So no money is being spent now, no decision is being made if this motion is approved. So in that case, I do think, again, legally, it would be permissible to make this motion, again, as a matter of policy, if the board feels otherwise. But yes, there is a motion on the floor, and that needs to be dispensed with.
If the motion is to continue the negotiations, come back to the board, whether we should spend this money on that particular item, I think that's absolutely proper. And when that's ready, again, I apologize. When she's ready, after these negotiations, agenda the item, and I see you're shaking your head, Mr. Attorney, and then we will have it public, we'll hear public opinion, get cards, public comments, listen to staff, and we'll take a vote at that time.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor.
Ms. Fields, yes.
If I could address some of the operational questions.
Well, I hesitated this time because we've had this issue. Right now we're discussing whether on the policy. I know the operation is going to be beautiful, and I know that you're going to run it beautifully just like you do all the other. Did you want to state something? Go right ahead. But
only
save
thing
a lot of that for when we come back on this issue.
Absolutely.
Go right ahead.
And that was the point that I was going to make, is if we are able to acquire the property, then we will be going through the discussions, including the
Absolutely.
community, to make sure that it is going to be consistent with the surrounding community and what priorities we will be addressing. All of those issues have not been hammered out, and they won't be until we know whether or not we'll have the property. So I just wanted to say
Thank
we will
you
still
so
be
much.
working on the
And
operations.
Thanks for being here. That's important, and that was part of the discussion when Isami brought it originally, is we really didn't know a lot of it. So I'm glad that you're here, and you'll be here again when we get to that point. Okay, so I have some light. I see well, hold on just 1 second. Ms. Baker, which is Mr. Rudder. I'll be with you in just 1 minute, Mr. Bernard.
Change my hair. Just to be really clear, we're here today following direction from Tuesday. It's a follow-up piece, and Isami
No, it
identified.
isn't a follow-up, sir. It's under Commissioner comments, and that's fair. And I think we have a motion on the floor. We'll go through a second and take a vote. That's where we're at, Mr.
Understand.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, now, Commissioner Bernard, you're on.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Just want to make sure that I understand the history on this item. You had brought this on the agenda. Which meeting was that? That was
9/17.
So that was on the 9/17 meeting, and it was agended, and we made the decision as a board to proceed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then when you came in front of us on Tuesday, it was just an update that you provided to us. Was it on the agenda as an agenda item?
It was it was under county administrator's comments.
Okay, so it was not agended, and it was under the administrator's comments, and then we, as a board, kind of like gave you direction to address some of these issues. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So the motion that's on the agenda today, that's on the commissioner's comments, which is still not agenda, but it is just to go through to create a contract if it's possible, do the due diligence, and maybe create a purchase agreement, and the board would still come back to make that decision on whether or not we would enter into this purchasing contract. Is that?
That is correct.
Okay, so whatever decision that we make today, we're not purchasing this property today. We're just giving you the direction to continue to negotiate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds like cross-examination, Commissioner Bernard. That was very good. Thank you. Commissioner Baxter and then Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was the intention, I guess, are we still voting on this today, Madam
Will,
Mayor?
yes. Well, do you understand what we're voting on?
I do.
Okay, good.
Very clear, thank you. So I guess really, Isami, I'm not a fan of it overall. I do appreciate the numbers. I do appreciate Vice Mayor Marino's point that it did cost us a lot more money just for beds, not actual individual rooms, than this property would. I still, I appreciate we'd be going to a due diligence. We wouldn't actually be solidifying this, but I do find that once we reach a certain point, there's very little room to then kind of stop things moving in progress. So that's where I hesitate on this, because I don't want us getting into some issue that does then end up costing 10 million in renovations. And we know how old is this structure?
Has 1988. Sorry. Has 4 years of useful life in it. So.
So even with a recent 1 million in renovations, I still, you always run into things, right? When remodeling, we know currently some things that have happened recently in a renovation versus not. So I will let it proceed to a vote, but I just wanted to reiterate my hesitation that we don't always know what we're getting into, and that I will, if this should pass after we vote, be very diligent in watching that we're not letting the dollars on this skyrocket.
Understood.
Thank you, Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you. Just, and I agree with everything Commissioner Baxter was just saying on there could be a lot of unanticipated costs, but would that be discovered during the due diligence?
That is correct.
Okay, so also as part of the due diligence with us, would we have the time to agenda this item, have the public comment, have the district commissioner be here to discuss, that side of it? And if it is an impasse, or if it just doesn't seem to work out with the community, I mean, I wasn't here, but I understand when the stockade negotiations were happening to temporarily use that took a lot of work. If we don't reach with the surrounding community an amicable agreement, are we still on the hook to purchase this?
No. And if I may, Commissioner, make something very clear. If this board were to authorize staff to continue to negotiate, the only thing that will be happening is that we can go back to the owner and say, the county is willing to pay the franchise fees. That has been the key thing. At that point, we then get to sit at the table and negotiate a contract. We as staff have no authority to approve the contract, and the owner knows that. We have told him we need to go back to the board. It is the board that can approve this. So it's not approved until the board approves. However, lacking ability to go back to that owner and say, yes, we're willing to consider the purchase price plus the fees. In practicality, we don't have anything else to negotiate, because he has said, I'm not sitting at the table unless the fees are included. So that will be basically the end of negotiations, putting it in practical terms. If this board wants us to truly negotiate a contract, come back with a full framework on the operational side, with a full framework of what is included in the due diligence, where do we stand, what we have done, we need on the staff side to be able to go over the fee issue, because right now that's the fatal critical point. And I don't have authority to do that unless
I just want to make sure that if this passes and you continue to negotiate, we will have time for you to be able to address this. And if the district commissioner, I'm sad that he's not here for this. This is important that he be here. But I've received a number of emails as well, and we would make this to where the surrounding community is okay. Because if they're not okay, then we all have problems. We don't need to do something that they're not okay with. And if we can't work that out, then this contract would stop, and we wouldn't just force this through.
And I'm going to give, before Tammy adds anything, again, the example of animal care and control. Animal care and control, the additional property was approved many months ago, and it has not been closed because we found contamination on the land. We came back to the board and said, we recommend you extend this due diligence period and put the burden on the owner to clean up the property. So although you all approve the contract, the county doesn't own the property yet because the conditions to make that happen have not occurred.
So could we extend the due diligence period with this?
We don't have a due diligence period yet because we don't have a contract. That's what we will.
If you're authorized to move forward to negotiate, then we could extend the time.
If we are authorized to negotiate, we will bring a contract that will have a due diligence period, and I can certainly tweak that due diligence period in negotiations as this board may wish. We can make it a 90-day or 120 to make sure we have enough time for the town halls, for the framework, for everything else. Obviously, assuming the owner agrees, it's a negotiation at that point. But right now, the breaking point is the fees.
Okay, well, I don't like this the way it is right now, but seeing that we have the ability to bring this back, I would like to hear from the residents, not just an email. I'd like for the district commissioner to be here. So against my gut, I would be a yes vote to allow this to continue, but that does not necessarily mean that I would be a yes vote at the end of this to close the contract. So there's a lot of work to be done on this. And, I'm okay with letting that move forward, but there's a lot of work, and that needs to be done before I would be a yes on the contract.
Thank you, Commissioner. Could I have the attorney tell us again, if you don't mind? And then we have a first by the Vice Mayor, a second by Commissioner Bernard, and then we'll proceed to the vote.
What exactly would you like me to clarify?
To do the, you restated the motion a few minutes ago, and if the board wants to, we can take a vote on this, or it's up to the Vice Mayor and Commissioner Bernard. They're the ones who have placed a motion and a second on the floor. So if they wish to proceed with it at this time, I'd like for you to state it so that we all know what we're voting on.
Sure, I might ask the clerk to repeat it just verbatim to make sure that
Appreciate
it's accurate.
What I have is that the motion is to pursue a contract for purchase and sale with due diligence and present the agreement at a later time to the board.
Okay, very good. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes. Did you want to say something, Commissioner Bernard, before you take the vote?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay. All those for, anybody opposed? See that it passes unanimously, 6-0. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Again, I apologize.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, you're still on your comment section.
No, I just want to say thank you, and negotiation is what we're all about here, so thank you for allowing our Prem to go ahead and negotiate the contract. And with that, I say thank you. I have nothing else.
Thank you. Okay, from the mayor's office, I want to thank Tammy. Are you still here? Good. I want to thank Tammy publicly for working with her staff, and maybe some of them are here, on another tool in our toolbox, which is the mini cottages idea. And I call them mini cottages out of respect for our wonderful county administrator, that this is something that we have a task force working on with developers, and as well as many city mayors in our community. But the heavy lifting is all with Tammy's staff. I want to thank you, because a shelter is a Band-Aid. A house is a house. And I will send to everybody in the County Commission the research that was done by our universities as well as others around the world on why housing first is a good policy to follow. And hopefully we will have it in place for the governor's and the Attorney General's approval before January. Thank you so much again, Tammy. Thank you, everyone. Everybody stay safe. Drive safely, and we'll see you again next time. This meeting is adjourned.